Sorry that my inner hipster had to come out today. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it just did. What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. So today is gonna be the first start to my series of like my mystery cases, I guess. I'm just gonna be telling you guys about like mystery cases and if they're solved or unsolved, and I'm just gonna tell you guys about them because these videos are so interesting to me and I would love to incorporate more of it into my channel. I feel like I do a lot of the same content, so I just kind of wanted to switch it up, and I really love watching these videos, so I thought that I would put it more into my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about the Emma Walker case. I've heard a lot about this case. I've watched a few videos and I've researched it myself so that I can have a lot of information. The reason why I particularly picked this case to start off with was because this is something that happened pretty recently. Like the last thing or event that had to do with this case was this year in May. It was pretty recent, and I feel like this is just like the perfect example of how fast a toxic and unhealthy relationship can go wrong. I don't know, this is kind of just a story about like how a perfect high school relationship goes wrong. So I thought I would start off with this one because I found it really interesting that it was like pretty recent. And I kind of just wanted to like spread awareness and just tell you guys about a story that I feel like happens so often. Obviously not to this extent, but I feel like there's just a lot of toxic and unhealthy relationships out there. So this is the story of Emma Jane Walker. Her dad was Mark Walker, her mom was Jill Walker, and she also had a brother, Evan Walker. They all lived in the same house. She was born in March 2000 and lived in a small town right next to Knoxville, Tennessee, and she went to Central High School, which is like the town high school. Like everybody in that small town went to that high school. And obviously because it was such a small town, everybody pretty much knew each other. Everybody went to the same school. Another thing about that town is that because it was so small, there wasn't a lot of crime scenes, and it just wasn't like a sketchy area. Like everybody, it was like family friendly. Everybody knew each other. It was like a good area to be in. If something like this did happen, it was pretty unusual because basically a lot of crimes don't happen here. It was pretty like safe, secure. It was such a small town. I feel like there wasn't really a lot of suspicious events that happened, or there was just like no crime scenes. So whenever something like this did happen, it was pretty unusual and everybody like was scared. It was just really out of the normal, so keep that in mind.
Okay, sorry that I look like a bug, just ignore that. But I'm editing this right now and I keep like looking to the side, and I'm not like reading off a script or anything. It's just that like whenever I just did it right now, like whenever I'm talking, I don't like looking directly. Like I kind of like look to the side just to like analyze the information and just to like think about what I'm gonna say. So that happens a lot if you guys notice it in my videos, but sorry, I apologize. I just noticed that I'm doing it a lot and it just looks really weird, but yeah.
So let's talk about Emma. Emma was described as really pretty. She had a lot of friends. She pretty much got along with everybody, and she was just really loved being a part of a crowd appeal. She was really fun and spirited, and she took cheerleading really seriously. She really loved it. Like she loved just being a part of a crowd. She loved performing. She was actually the only freshman out of her whole class to make the cheerleading team, so she was pretty successful. She was just really sweethearted, and she actually wanted to be a nurse when she grew up. And when she was still alive, she did a lot of volunteer work, especially at animal shelters, and she just loved working with animals and kids and babies. Overall, just this really nice, kind person. So earlier in the fall when she was a freshman, it was kind of around her cheerleading season, she met this guy named Riley Gall, and he's a really big key to this story. He was a cheerleader and he was a football player. They basically started dating, but the only thing is that he was a junior and she was a freshman, so it's kind of weird. I don't know how that was in that high school, but I feel like if that would have happened in my high school, it was just really unusual because everybody thinks that the junior is gonna play the freshman, and that was just like kind of what I was thinking when I first looked into this case. But yeah, his name was Riley Gall, and he was actually a wide receiver on his high school football team, and he was 2 years older than her, so he was like just about to graduate. When Riley and Emma actually started dating, he was already dating another girl, but he eventually broke up with her to date Emma. Riley was described as not really your classic jock type. He was like kind of nerdy. He was at the top of his class. He was really smart and involved with his church, and he just had a really good reputation overall. His parents said that he came off as really nice and really friendly and respectful at first, and they just had a good impression on him. But yeah, they had started dating. It was just really cool. He would come over and they'd hang out and they'd go out to eat. It was just your basic high school relationship. Their relationship was described as just really perfect, and they were just genuinely happy. They went everywhere together, would always make posts about each other, and they were just the perfect high school couple. One of Emma's friends also said that Riley never really interacted with Emma's friends, and he tried to like distance himself from them, didn't really interact with them. He didn't really find interest in being friends with them. He also didn't really want Emma to be friends with him. Like he just kind of like tried distancing them from Emma's friends, and Emma's friends at first thought this was fine and it was understandable because they had just started dating, but then they started getting concerned. Another thing that I thought was really weird is that Riley actually promised his ex-girlfriend that he would take her to prom his junior year, which I think is really weird because if they already broke up, then for why? Yeah, so he ended up taking his ex-girlfriend to prom his junior year, and he took Emma to prom his senior year. This obviously made Emma feel awkward, and she was just like in an awkward place to be, and this is when Emma's parents started noticing like red flags in Riley. This made Emma's parents think that Riley was gonna play Emma, or he just wasn't treating her right, and that just made them feel differently about Riley. And then they started noticing that Riley would start getting really overprotective of her and just very territorial of Emma. He wouldn't let her do certain things or wear certain things, and he would just be really controlling of what she does, like where she goes, who she hangs out with. So for about 2 years they were really on and off, just like every other high school couple. It was pretty normal, but they would just break up and then make up, break up, get back together. It was just like an ongoing thing. They would also argue a lot in text and just make really dramatic posts about each other on Snapchat, and they made it public so everybody could see. So by this time Emma was a junior and she was 16, and she was working at a supermarket. This was said by one of Emma's friends, I think. She said that Riley used to wait outside of Emma's work for hours waiting for her to like take her back home, and just like because he was so controlling, he wanted to control everything she did. So this is when all of Emma's friends and family would start going to her and tell her that he wasn't good for her and that they should break up, and she would just brush it off because they had a history. That was her boyfriend for 2 years. She felt secure around him. Emma's friends then started noticing that their Snapchats and their texts started getting more dramatic and intense and really aggressive. He would start sending her messages like, "I hate you and everything about you. You're the biggest bitch I ever came in contact with," and just really nasty, aggressive texts that you should not be sending. Emma's mom started reading her texts, and one that really stood out to her and that was just really creepy. It said, "You're dead to me. I'll check the obituary. Fuck you." That's creepy. And he was just really manipulative, and he reminded me of a sociopath, so he could have been a sociopath. We don't know. He was just very manipulative toward her. He knew how her brain works. He knew how to get inside her brain, and he would threaten to kill himself if she tried breaking up with him. That is a really toxic trait. That ain't it. When Emma's parents confronted Riley about it, he would just say that he was just mad at the time and he didn't mean it, and he still loves her, would never do anything to hurt her. So that's when Emma's parents really started getting red flags, and they just didn't want them together anymore. So Emma's parents took Emma's phone to stop them from texting, and they didn't allow Riley in their house anymore, so they kind of just banned him from coming to their house. Send her these really nasty and aggressive texts and then quickly apologize and say stuff like, "I love you more than words can describe," and he was just really like, I feel like he was mentally unstable. Because he was so manipulative and knew how to get inside her head, whenever Emma's parents would try to advise her to break up with him, she would just say stuff like, "Oh, he didn't do anything wrong, like he's in the right, like I'm in the wrong if anything." Like she was just so convinced that he wasn't toxic, he wasn't doing anything, like he was. Another trait that sociopaths have is that they tend to isolate the person from all their friends and family so that they think that you're all they got. So that's what Riley did to Emma. He tried taking her from all her friends and family. That she basically thought that the only person she had was Riley, and she could go to him for anything to make her feel safe and secure. Stuff like that. So by fall of 2016, they were still dating in spite of what her parents wanted. So they decided to ground her from everywhere except for school and cheerleading. So they took her to and from school, to and from cheerleading, and they just didn't want her seeing Riley at all. By this time, Riley had actually already graduated, and he was at a local college playing football, I think. And he was only like 30 minutes from Emma, but they still didn't see each other. So that's exactly what Emma's parents wanted. So this is when Emma started becoming like her old self again, and she was just really spirited, and she was becoming more genuinely happy, and her parents, this is what they wanted all along. But after she was like doing pretty good, she started getting Snapchats of Riley and other girls on his campus, and that's when she decided like, I've had enough of it, I'm gonna break up with him. So she broke up with him, and he did not react well. Riley reacted to the breakup by trying to overdose on Vicodin pills, and he tried to wash it down with alcohol. Obviously, this attempt of suicide wasn't successful. His friends started noticing that Riley would have mood swings, and he would just say stuff like, "I feel so depressed, I just want to hurt myself." basically in a cry for help, I guess, or maybe it was just attention seeking. Nobody really knows, but he was just having these really bad mood swings. On Friday, November 18th of 2016, they had just won a football game, and they all decided to go to a friend's house after the game just to hang out. Emma's parents allowed this because they thought that she was doing better, and she was. We're all at this friend's house. They were just hanging out, and Emma was actually with this guy named Zach when she started getting these strange messages from an unfamiliar number. The messages would say stuff like, "Come outside alone if you don't want to see a loved one get hurt. Go to your car with your keys. Go alone. I've got someone you love. If you don't comply, you will get hurt." At first, Emma thought this was just one of Riley's friends just pranking her and trying to mess with her. But she realized that it wasn't a joke when she threatened to call the cops. Like, she texted that number and said, "I'm gonna call the cops." And the message replied saying, "If you'd like to hear his crying and screams, give him a call." And another message said, "He's in the ditch beside her house. It's a shame you can all of a sudden not value someone else's life." So that's when Emma and Zach started getting really suspicious. So they went outside the house, and there was a ditch right beside the house. It was like this. She went down the driveway, and she saw a body by a bush that was laying face down, and she saw that it was Riley. So Emma ran to him, and she started crying, and basically he was holding his head as if someone had hit him. And he was just claiming that he didn't know where he was, or he didn't know how he got there.
And he basically told me that these people knocked him out, took his car, and threw him in a van, and he didn't know where he was.
Riley called his friend to come and pick him up, and basically just said like he must have gotten kidnapped and he must have got hit and put in a car and then dumped in the ditch. And Riley's friend did not believe him. Emma didn't believe him. They just called bullshit, and they were just like, "Why you lying?
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my god, stop you fucking lying."
Emma started crying, and she was just like, "Move on, I don't want you, leave me alone," and stuff like that. And basically Emma just wanted Riley to move on. The next day was Saturday morning, and Emma was actually getting ready to go meet her mom somewhere when she heard these really loud bangs on the door. She was obviously really scared because that's something that doesn't happen a lot in her town. Like, there was really no suspicious events that went on, so she was really scared, and she was home alone. She was like 16, so she gave Riley a text, and she said, "I hate you, but I need you." So he drove over there, and he just started talking to her, acting like he didn't know what was going on. So they were just sitting in the front yard talking, and that's when Emma's mom pulled up because she realized that Emma wasn't gonna meet her because the time had already passed. So she came back and saw Riley, and she told him to leave, and he left. The next day was Sunday, and Emma was still pretty shooken up and really scared of all the events that had been happening, like the unfamiliar texts, the kidnapping, the loud banging, and she just didn't know what to believe. So her parents started taking her to and from work just to ensure her safety, and her dad actually took her out that night and was telling her like, "Hey, you're doing better, and that you seem more genuinely happy." And I'm just like, he was relieved basically. Later that night, they just all got ready for bed as if it was a completely normal day. It was reported that in the middle of the night, her dad woke up from a really loud noise, and it sounded like someone slammed a door really hard. So immediately he got up and went to check on Evan and Emma, see what happened, like see where the noise came from, and he didn't see anything. So he went back to bed, and he thought maybe he was hearing things, or maybe it was something from outside. Like, he didn't really know, so he just went back to sleep. So then in the morning, Emma's mom and Emma's dad, they both got up just to do their morning tasks. You know, I think they were getting ready for work, I'm not really sure, but Emma's mom went to go wake up Emma for school, as she always does. It didn't really take much to wake up Emma. Like, she was a really light sleeper. All she had to do was like call Emma's name, and Emma would wake up. But immediately she knew something was wrong, and when she tried like tapping Emma's leg, and she would repeatedly call her name, and she wouldn't respond. And she realized that she didn't have a pulse, so that's when Emma's mom immediately checked for her pulse, and she didn't have one, so she called 911.
And said her name, didn't hear anything, bumped her leg, didn't hear anything, and then went to her face and realized and checked for a pulse and couldn't find anything. I know I called 911.
Where's your emergency? What's going on there?
I just tried to wake up my daughter for school, and she has no pulse.
How old is
She's 16.
Okay, so I'm back. My camera died, so I had to charge it, and I'm back. Also, my aunt's coming to pick me up right now, so I'll probably only get a little bit of footage in right now, but I changed my clips because I'm not only a hipster, I'm a matching hipster. So after the mom called the paramedics came really quickly, and they literally had no evidence to see like why she could have died or like what happened. So at first they thought that it was either an overdose or it was like an attempt to commit suicide. just because like they had no information on it. And since the town was so small, like word got around really quickly that everybody thought that she overdosed or she tried to commit suicide, since that's all like the paramedics and the investigators, that's all the information they had. When word got around that Emma was dead, Riley started making posts about her on Twitter saying how he loved her so much and how he cared so much about her and that this hurt him so much, and just like a bunch of bullshit. Since she was so well known and it was like a really small town, everybody was shocked and everybody was so sad because that was like such an unusual event. Like stuff like that didn't happen because it was such a like low crime rate. Everybody was just really sad and shocked, and they obviously just wanted to know what happened. So police literally had no evidence of how she could have died until they saw two very small holes by her bed where like her head was. So they knew that whoever was trying to kill her like meant to kill her and meant to shoot her through her head because of where the position of the bullets like of the little holes were. Also, whoever meant to kill her had to have been in her house or knew like where her bed was, like in her room, like what position it was, where she was facing, and all that information. Police immediately started asking friends and family who might have wanted to hurt Emma, who might have wanted to harm her in any way. Riley's name kept coming up, so they went to his dorm room in his college and they were just asking him questions, but they didn't get enough evidence to prove that it was him, so they just like left, I guess. Riley's friends started getting really concerned for Riley's health because he was already depressed and he was already talking about like committing suicide. He had already attempted it, so they were just really like concerned with him because Emma had just died, you know, the girl he loved. And one of Riley's friends actually told the police that the Saturday before Emma was killed, that Riley had stole one of his grandfather's guns, like from his, I don't know, I think it's like a little case that he had the gun in, and basically Riley had stolen it and then told his friend about it. So his friend told the police after Emma was killed, thinking that it was Riley, because it was Riley. Said that Riley only took the gun for his own protection because of the kidnapping experience that he had, so he just wanted it to feel safe, I guess. And Riley's friends were just really worried that Riley had a gun on him because of his previous suicidal attempts, so they thought that maybe Riley would use that. Riley assured his friends that he was doing better and he was only purely using it for protection, but because he had this gun, it gave police a reason to suspect him, obviously. Since Riley's friend told the police that Riley had a gun, they brought Riley in for more questioning, and they were just asking stuff like, where were you the night Emma was murdered? And he said that he was at his friend Noah's house. And then they asked, did you stay the night? And he said, I'm pretty sure I did. First of all,
who else didn't know us when you get there?
It was just me and him, and then I think it was just me and him all night. I don't remember anybody else showing up.
And you said you spent the night?
I'm pretty sure I did, yes. Actually, yes, I'm positive I did. I did spend the night.
You can't remember if you spent the night at Noah's or stayed at your grandparents'?
From that clip, you can just tell that he was really nervous and he was just acting really sus because of all the questions that the police were asking, and you could just tell like he was really nervous. And another thing that I thought was really weird was that him and Emma had been dating for 2+ years before she was murdered, and the whole time they were interrogating him for 2 hours, he wouldn't refer to Emma at all as like Emma, my girlfriend. He would refer to her as the girl that passed away, and it was just really weird. Like, you do, like, that was just really weird and that was really suspicious.
She texted me.
Which girl?
The one that passed away.
Oh.
While talking about Emma and the whole situation, he just seemed really like nonchalant, and he seemed really emotionless, and he just like looked like he didn't care for any of the stuff that happened. Riley told the police that he texted her all weekend and she didn't reply and eventually blocked him, but then texted him and said that the only way she would talk to him is if he helped her with the paper. So he used somebody else's phone on campus to call her and talk to her. I don't believe that at all. But so during their interrogation, I don't really know if it's an interrogation, but that's what I'm gonna call it. So during the whole little questioning, he was telling police that he was texting her and said he wants her back and he misses her and all this, and she was just calling him crazy and she didn't want anything to do with him. She hated him. He just like, the police didn't even ask him anything, and he just started saying like, I hope I'm not a suspect, I hope you know that I would never hurt Emma, and just like trying to play the victim.
I was crying and I was trying to get her to reason with me on being back together with me, and she just kept saying no. She said she didn't care about the relationship anymore. She said, you need to stop, you're crazy, you need to get a life. Hung up the phone, blocked me.
Serious trouble.
Am I a suspect in her passing?
Should you be?
I just feel like I'm being badgered with a question. I hope to God I'm not a suspect in her death.
Did I say you were?
I hope you don't think it, because I wouldn't hurt that
girl. Did you shoot into Emma's house?
Riley also said that the night that Emma died, he was so sad and he got in his car and he drove to his grandparents' house and was just sitting in the car crying and had a mental breakdown, and he was reminiscing, I think that's the word. He was reminiscing on their old photos together and he was just so heartbroken. He only stayed there for like an hour to 30 minutes, I think, and then he drove back. Police were also asking him if he ever had a gun on him and how he had access to a gun and like how he got into his grandpa's gun, since they already knew that he had a gun, and he just denied all the questions and he was just like, I don't know what you're talking about, yada yada yada. Police obviously already knew that he did have a gun on him because of Riley's friend Noah, I think that's his name. But you know, Riley just kept acting like he didn't really know what was going on and his friends were crazy. He was just basically calling them liars. Police also brought up that Noah, who was Riley's friend, told the police that Riley had asked Noah how to get fingerprints off a gun like earlier, I think it was Saturday, when he had first showed Noah the gun. So Noah was a big old snitch. He did not care. Thought that was really weird, and it was just really weird of Riley to ask him that. But Riley told Noah that the reason why he was asking that was for his roommate, which obviously Noah didn't believe. So after Riley left questioning, he went to Noah's house and he confronted him and he was like, bro, why would you snitch on me? Like, why'd you tell the police that? And Noah just basically said that like, if you didn't have the gun or whatever, and if you only had the gun for protection purposes, then you have nothing to be worried about. And that kind of just shut Riley up. Riley told his friend that he didn't have the gun anymore and he put it back. But then Riley's mom asked him about the gun and Riley said that he never had one and he didn't know what she was talking about. Then all of Riley's friends were kind of like noticing a pattern in his behavior, and he was just acting really suspicious whenever the topic of a gun came up, because he would tell his friends that he did have a gun and then he would tell like the cops and his mom that he never had a gun. So this gave them a reason to believe that he was the one who shot Emma. Riley just told his friends, he was like, stop talking to the police, and if they could help him hide the gun or get rid of the gun so that the police won't give him a reason to be suspected of killing Emma. But since Riley's friends already pretty much knew that Riley had killed Emma and it was like confirmed, so they agreed to help him get rid of the gun. But they were secretly working with the police so that when they were like in the act of trying to hide the gun, the police could just come up, no questions asked, and arrest him. The next day, Riley's friends, Noah and Alex, they came over to his house. That was the day that they were gonna hide the gun, and they were just hanging out. The police had actually gave Noah and Alex a little like secret camera in their little key ring thing, and they also had a mic on them so the police could hear everything that they were talking about and was going on. Eventually Emma's name came up in the conversation and he just started denying everything and was saying that he would never do anything to hurt her. He loved her so much.
I want to be so upset and I can't, because I'm more worried about getting arrested and putting away for murder that I didn't commit. And never in my life would I kill someone that I love that much.
Love you, bro. It sucks you gotta deal with all this pain.
Riley clearly had no clue about the sting. He had faith in his friends.
I'm trusting you guys, like, with my life, because I mean, this is 70 years in jail if I get convicted of something I didn't do.
Why can't you just give him a gun?
It just needs to be gone. For whatever reason, it just needs to be gone. You guys don't have to come with me if you don't want to.
I mean, I got your back, man.
If it's in the Tennessee River, they will never find it.
He was also telling Noah and Alex that they should take back their statements that they said to the police, and that they were on drugs and they didn't know what they were talking about and they just weren't themselves, I guess. Like, they made it up. So then the three boys start talking about like where they're gonna hide the gun, and Riley had agreed on the Tennessee River, which wasn't too far from his house. I don't really remember. Obviously Noah and Alex, they agree with everything. They make Riley believe that they're on his side and that they're with him, and Riley starts to believe that Noah and Alex are on his side and they're actually there to help him, and they think he's innocent. So it's like the plan is going perfectly. Three boys get in the car and they're about to go to the Tennessee River, but first they go to Riley's stepdad's house to get the gun, which was wrapped in a trash bag, and they put it in the back seat, I'm pretty sure. And then they went to go eat, and then they went to the Tennessee River, but they didn't park directly on it. They parked like somewhere close to the Tennessee River so that they could walk over there. And meanwhile, there was a bunch of undercover cops following them, and Noah and Alex were texting in a group chat with the cops of like what they were saying, what was going on, where they were. So they were at the Tennessee River, and Riley gets out of the front seat and he puts on gloves so that the fingerprints don't go on the gun, and he grabs the gun really slowly and really carefully. This is when Noah and Alex text the police that this is a good time to come and arrest him and like catch him on the spot. So the police come and they tell all three of the boys to put their hands up. Obviously Noah and Alex already knew this was gonna happen, so they just did it willingly, and they arrested Riley. He was charged with first-degree murder and along with like 5 other charges, including gun theft and possession of a gun.
What the Everybody put your hands out of the vehicle now!
Inside the trash bag that the gun was in, they also found black clothing, which was the same clothing that was spotted when he was banging on Emma's door that morning and when he was kidnapped, and it was just like the same clothing that he had been using for all of like the events leading up to her death. Riley was locked away in prison for I think about 1.5 years until he had his trial, which was pretty recent. It was May 8th of 2018 this year. In the trial, basically his lawyer defense team, or just like his lawyer, they basically claimed that this wasn't a murder and that this was a reckless homicide. This was also the first time that Riley had admitted to killing Emma, so this kind of took the like judges off guard. Basically, Riley said that he was desperately in love with her and she didn't like him back. He meant to shoot the gun in an attempt to get her attention and for her to be scared and text him to come over so that they could like get close again, I guess. That's what he claimed, that he didn't mean to kill her and he was just trying to scare her with the gun. This was exactly what he tried to do when he did that loud banging on Emma's door that one morning. So he was basically just trying to scare her so that she would get scared and call him and tell him to come over. The court didn't believe him because of the exact position and place the bullets were in, and that they said that basically it was meant to kill Emma. Like, you can tell by where the bullets were and where her like bed frame is. It basically took a little bit over a week to go through everything with the murder and just like go through what happened. On May 8th of 2018, the court basically determined that he murdered Emma and he was charged with first-degree murder and 50 years of prison without parole. Since then, there's been so many documentaries and stories of this particular story of Emma Walker's death, and people are just trying to spread awareness of situations like this, of just really unhealthy and toxic relationships that you should immediately get out of as soon as you notice a red flag. But yeah, that's the end of this really long story. I hope you guys enjoyed my first like mystery crime story. Comment down below some like people or just cases that you want me to research so that I can make a video on them. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Peace.